Hello and welcome. I'll just use a couple of minutes for you to find me and for me to be able to share the link to this live stream with a small webinar. And I'll just share the link for more people to be able to participate live here. I'm there. Yeah. Yes. So, I see a few of you find me here. And we just wait for, we just wait for the clock to turn 10 p.m. before we begin. So welcome. My name is Marianne. I'm a Danish shaman, modern shaman of the new era. I work with energy and began in 2012 working full-time as an energy worker, a seer and a channel. Work with teachings, sessions, healings, energy work around the world. And for about a year ago, I was guided to begin to open my work with the English tongue. My native tongue is Danish, so I've been practicing a bit, and I hope that you can follow me. If anything comes out odd, please help me. I do my best, but sometimes, I struggle finding the word or pronouncing them. This webinar comes with energy work as well. The headline is No Fear, Fear No Fear. And the first half of this hour together will be about no fear. And then the other half will be about fear no fear and why this is really important. So I can see you're still joining in here, and we might as well open the energy together. I always open the energy through the body. So opening the acknowledgement, the awareness of the body in the body, and focusing on the backside is a fast way to open this focus. So let's focus on the neck and the back of the head. Breathe a bit. The back all the way down to where you sit. At the same time, still focusing on the back of the head, the back of the arms, elbows, down to the hands, the back of the legs, and under your feet. And then from this focus, open to the recognition, the connection to all of your body at the same time. And then at the same time, I'll open the energy in the field, and you can access by put your intention on joining in the energy work. This energy will support you in meeting your focus point, your balancing point, your zeroing state, your ability to meet this space, this place where the fear is accessible. Actually, fear has the sign or nearly the description that it throws you into states of consciousness where you have no ability to connect, to align, to control anything at all. Fear is an automatic program that ignites itself, and then when it's ignited, you have like different possibilities to balance yourself and to keep yourself aligned and aware. Often I see this as a picture of horseback riding, because I've been a horseback rider in my younger years. So I imagine when I was on a horse, some of the horses, they really worked together uh, with me, like joining in a mutual experience. Some of them, they struggled more. Some of them were fighting me. Some of them were really fighting me. And to me, this in the sense, the meeting with the fear, it has, in the same way, different kinds of fear, and some of them you can use to work with them. They will work with you, and some of them try to take control. And the no fear access is to be able to enter states of consciousness and availability to yourself, where deciding upon not interacting and reacting with your fear is accessible. The energy work in this webinar will you support you into be aligned with yourself, the part of yourself that can keep this control, and I will call it a positive control. Many people that I talk with and that I hear give different speaks and teachings talk about releasing the control. And of course, sometimes the control can be a boundary. It can be even a fence or a disturbance. But it's important that we have some kind of control. The control that allows us to be safe, to be safe with ourselves, to have an experience of ourselves being reliable. If we are controlled by fear, at a tipping point, it goes from feeling safe to feeling unreliable to ourselves. And then the fear has taken over. So what we seek here is a balance. And the energy work that comes here, I call it the grail work, because the energy that supports us here, I collected them and connected with them in the grail journeys. I traveled to Malta, to Nevada. I was in Loch Ness in Scotland, and in Bhutan, and in Japan. And in these journeys, I received inner teachings together with the groups that joined me about the balance with the consciousness, with the awareness in relation to our natural driving forces, our natural way of being in any way, that the balancing, that it's really important that when we use balancing and use different practices to get in control with ourselves and to make changes with ourselves, that these changes, that they are natural, that they is according to our natural being in any way. In the old era, a lot of the consciousness work, a lot of the work with yourself was to control yourself by forcing yourself, keeping yourself down in any way. burning or destroying your ego. But in the new era way, we are instead building up a conscious relationship with each and every part of us, each and every layer. The grail energies from that work is the one that supports us here, and they work with liberation, and especially liberation of the fears of the fears. Often when we have this experience that the fears taking over, we can have anxiety reactions. That's often overwhelming reactions that is related to fear, or fear of the fear of the fear. So when we have these interactions, the fear reactions can roll interconnected in a way where it makes chain reactions, and these chain reactions can go so far that they gives us anxiety reactions, anxiety experiences. This energy supports us into the connection with ourselves, so we can get the signs of when the fear appears, and the fear of the fears, that it's not so easily ignited. To intentionally create a sigh, you use your body's natural way to shift into another direction. And here the energy that supports us gives us the possibility to go into another direction. So by intentionally creating a sigh, you support the energy into this shift. And being connected with your body at the same time, you can try to see curiously if you have any reactions at all. It's not important. It's not like you can only access this kind of teachings, you can only access this kind of work if you can sense the energy, or if you can sense any change. It's not like that at all. So you can just try being curious and see any sign at all about something that is changing. To me, by instance, I sense a bit of pressure here in my chest, in my throat, and that's often the areas that will react to me when I get nervous, so it makes sense. Then I can sense like release of tensions down my back next to the spine, and that also makes sense to me because I often tense up exactly like that if I'm alerted. So it makes sense that these are the areas in my body that I sense anything that's interacting, that's reacting. Also, I release some tensions in my shoulders, and that's also natural. And then I sense a release like in my awareness, like it's brightening up a bit, more clarity, and more space within, like a sense of more space when I'm breathing. And your senses, your signs that something is going on can be completely different, and maybe nothing comes by at all. Just watching it and being curious and aware supports the energy to reach you, because these energies are new era energies and they only work with mirroring. So it's it's reaching you by your own interaction, your own reflections, by your highest perspectives. You could say your soul connection is what actually delivers the energy work. It's just ignited by these like packages of codes that I'm holding for your higher connection to like get access to. And then your own mirror is taking this possibility in. So the fear of the fear is actually often what brings us into a lot of trouble, but also what gives us the strength and helps us to move onwards and forwards. So that's the reason why the other half of this talk is about fear no fear. That it's important that we have an ability to carry fear, and that fear has a lot of like components, and that some of the components that fears come with, some of the ingredients, is really powerful. And if we can use these ingredients in the way that we are containing ourselves, in the way that we are meeting ourselves and our reality, these components, these ingredients from the fear, it creates a lot of high energy. It's important to be careful with it, and the way to be careful is always to be aware of your ability to sense your body, because your ability to sense your body proves your access to yourself. Your access to yourself is important to catch every signals that can come by. And so what about right now? Do you sense your body? Is it available to you? And this is a practice, this is training. So I trained this connection by training it every day for a long time. So now it's a natural, like relaxing point for me. So in my balancing, relaxing point, that is by sensing my body. So when my body's sensation diminishes, I recognize it immediately, and then I know something is going on, and then I can begin to find it, and also ensures that it's not getting me so much. So if I take it back to the horseback riding, that's the same time as when I was on a horse and I could sense that it was jumpy. Then I knew I should be more aware. Every small sign of the horse would jump, I catched it, because then I could even follow the jump or I could stop it. And this is nearly the same. So when I have this connection with my body, so I always sense it. If the sense of the body is diminishing, I can either stop it or I can follow it. And when I follow the diminishing of my body sensation, then sometimes that is enough for me to catch what's going on. What is it about? Is it because I'm stressed? Is it because something's bothering me? Is it because something shocked me? Is it because something is difficult? Is it because I'm tired? Is it because I'm hungry? And you could say, oh, this is much to take care of. This is much to be aware of. What about my work? What about all the things that I have to take care of? This is natural. This is actually your natural system, and it's already in that, already programmed. A lot of modern people living with their modern consciousness, they use the ability to choose not to use this system with awareness, and to kind of actually put it on the side. Suppressing it because it's possible. And then you can move on igniting on different kind of energies and keeping a high vibration on like a distant relation to your body. And then at some time you will ignite fear reactions because the old system, the old programs ignites on fear if you are lacking or if you in any way is suppressing your reactions when they are small, then they will grow. It's like if you ever tried with a hose to water your plants, and then it's soft the water, and then if you push it, you can get the water to run very fast and with a very hard strength. And it's the same if you suppress this if you're being nervous or anxious in any way, then if you suppress it, you enhance the power of it. So what we work with here and what the energy work supports us to is to get the access where we can be connected with the body, being aware of the body, and be aware of every kind of sign that shows us that the connection with the body is getting weaker. Does it make sense? Again, soft deep breathing a couple of times. And some people they even like to enhance the sensations, the energy by forcing themselves. By instance, I work as an engineer. I actually just has 10 years. I don't remember the English word for it, but it's 10 years since I stopped working as an engineer and began working full time with energy and consciousness. And when I worked as an engineer, it was really common that people like pushed themselves by working close to the time frames. So the more close they get to the what's the English word for that? Sorry. So the time where they need to deliver the work, the higher the energy. So they got used to pushing themselves, forcing themselves with the time frames. And you can really deadline. Thank you so much for the support. Of course, it's deadline. Yes. So they pushed themselves by using the deadlines, and it was like they couldn't nearly work if there wasn't a close deadline. And this is a really common example of this. But if you do this for a long time, you will weaken your connection with the body. So your sign of being tired, being hungry, needing to be close to your family, that begins to have lesser strength. So you kind of weakening the connection with yourself. And if you do this for some time, the reactions that will come is fear reactions. Because a part of you begins to feel uncomfortable, being nervous about things that you're suppressing. Very, very many small things it could be. And if you at the same time is put pressure on your body and your physical system by not being aware of what it needs because you can't sense it, then that also ignites the fear reactions to a deeper level. And the deeper the level, the more possibility, the larger possibility it is for you to have fear reactions to turn into anxiety reactions. So this is the reason why your connection with the body makes sense, because your connection with the body then can be like your measurement. So it's like you can be your measure of how much pressure do I put upon myself. Is it a healthy pressure or is it an unhealthy pressure? And the reason why this is important is because we are entering into the new era possibilities, the new era consciousness. And just here in the 21st of December 2022, Earth consciousness moves into seventh dimension. Like every human being will then have an access to the seventh dimension consciousness. And I found out just recently that many other teachings and channels will call this the fifth dimension. And this is because they're related to different stages of consciousness, and I related to like different frequencies and the carriage of different frequencies of your consciousness, energetic field of consciousness, your energy field of consciousness. So a little bit different within the definitions, but in this consciousness state, all the mutual field of consciousness for Earth people enters seventh dimension, and then we have ability to live in a state of no fear and still have access to driving forces that ensures that we take care and will be responsible and be aware of everything. But we still have like a foundation and history and ignition of in all of a system of programs that's related to the old era. And in the old era, if you release fear completely, then you will begin to have problems with the driving forces. You might be lazy or being like defocusing, having trouble finding goals. And if you find goals, it's difficult to find reason to work for them. Have any of you tried that? Because a lot of people who work consciously of finding peace, because this spot, this state of being where we have access to ourselves is peace, inner peace. And this inner peace state, a lot of people who like find this inner peace and begins to like benefit of this and get access to the bliss, they begin to have troubles with like focusing and with the driving forces, and to find the goals and to go for it and to find reasons for it. And this is actually due to the possibilities of creating an availability to yourself where you are creating like an unbound connection. So you are suppressing your connection with a part of you. And that part of you is the part of you that ignites with fear. But the part of you that ignites with fear is also the part that ignites with pleasure. And if you're not driving by fear, you need to be driven, by pleasure. And this is the same part of the system. It's actually the same frequencies. It's just a different how it runs in your system and what it opens, what it creates. So if you completely close down your possibility to fear, to carry fear, to contain fear, then you'll also diminishing your capacity to carry all the positive energy, the driving forces that has to replace it. And this is actually not quite containable yet. So in the new era, when it's completely entered, when we are living it, all of us, then it should be the mutual goal of Earth people here, that our driving force will be pleasure, and then the pleasure will be balanced. The trouble is that if the pleasure is unbalanced, then we will overuse. We will have troubles with unbalanced way of use. So we will misuse, because we will not have the ability to be fully connected with pleasure, because we suppress fear. And as it is right now, this is a balance that we can't keep to the highest level yet. So to admit and to allow fear to be a part of our life is important. So if you're carrying the ability to be completely without fear, that's why I call this webinar no fear, but fear no fear. So it's really important that you have this sense in your body of fear, and that this fear can ignite, and it can maybe give you unpleasure. It can give you it can get you into nervous states of different kinds, ignite your anxiety. The importance is that when this happens, that it's related to reality, so that in the context that it makes sense. So if you can have a lot of experiences that has a context where it would make sense that you have some kind of fear reactions, then it's important that they're there. A lot of people who work with themselves, they can reach this ability to suppress or ignore or like counter-react the fear so strongly that they don't feel it at all. And then you'll, not all of us, but a lot of us will have these troubles with losing our direction, our sense of ourselves, and our driving forces, and our way to use will be misusing in a lot of ways, and the sense of being fulfilled will be different and difficult to reach. So what we work with here, and with the support for the energy work, is to reach the point where we contain the fear, we carry the fear, as well as fulfillment in any way. But in the balanced way where it mirrors reality, where it fits with the context, whatever is going on. Does it make sense that I have fear reactions? So if you look around in your life, just take a short journey, a view, a perspective. Where will you have experience of being nervous? And often, if fear is suppressed, it will ignite anger. So you can also look out for anger. In what areas in your everyday life do you express anger? And if you don't, it's often like being nervous and anxious in ways that is overwhelming, and that diminish your connection with yourself, with your body, with what's important to you. So in which areas will you recognize either fear, being nervous, anxious, or angry? To me, it's much about if somebody's relying on me. Is it called relying? So if somebody's doing that, then it ignites me in a way that I either get angry if I can't control the situation, or nervous. So this is an area of my life where it's really important to me to ensure that I'm connected with my body all the time. And if I begin to have this sense of running out of myself, we actually in Danish have a way of saying where we call it that. So if I'm having this sense of running out of myself, that I'm focusing on my body and maybe turning down the volume of everything that's going on just for a few seconds. And then I connect again, and then I meet again whatever's going on. This coupling in and out supports me into not being dragged around by the fear chain reactions. This ignition is actually important because this ignition that can throw me into being angry or nervous, having different kind of anxiety, if somebody's relying on me, that's also igniting a content of what makes me, what gives me energy when I'm teaching. So when you come here and you listen to me, a part of the energy that supports me in doing my best and really make an effort, that comes from the same energy, that comes from the same ignition. So the difference is, how does it run in my system? So the intensity, and that it can lift me into a higher frequency, and at the same time I'm connected with my body. Then I can use this constituent of my energy to work better and to perform better, and perform better in a way that comfort myself. So I want it that way. I like the way. So I'm really satisfied with that energy. So working with the energy that's related to the fear is important if we want to do our best. Back to the horseback riding, it actually also was like this, that the horses that was a bit jumpy, when they collaborated, they could perform so much better than the horses that was relaxed. Of course, some of the horses could both, but often there was a connection that the more jumpy horses, they were carrying themselves with more energy, and they also like to perform, and they like to work more. So when we are capable, and when we're carrying this access with our consciousness, we can use this creating tensions within ourselves consciously. The tensions that we now releases with the energy work here, that goes within layers of our consciousness or in heritage libraries in our system. They gives us the access that we have this availability. So how do you do this in your everyday life? In your everyday life, it's in the beginning, it's about keeping the access. So in the beginning, it's much about training the focus, staying with yourself, and observing what's the difference as much as you can. Focusing and observing what's going on with this, what's happening with, how do I sense this? You can use different training programs like yoga or like a different martial arts. If you're into that kind of work, you can focus with doing things that's difficult. And when you train these things, you train your focus capacity. Dancing. There's a lot of ways where you can, in a fun way, where you do more things at the same time. So you practice your focus, your availability to yourself, and do something that's healthy, something that's entertaining. So something that in more dimension gives you pleasure and gives you energy. And it's important to find ways that give you this. I'm a bit nerdy. So to me, observing is interesting enough, but to many people it isn't. And if you're not nerdy and it's not interesting just observing and observing and observing, then it's important that you find ways that you find interesting and fulfilling in more levels, thus more dimensions. So what could you do? What would you find fun? Maybe you already do something, maybe you already do something that really puts you at work, takes all your bandwidth, all your focus, and you're good at it, or you find it really interesting and amusing to work with it. Could you find anything in your life where you do this already? Then you can use this capacity that you're already accessed, that you're already trained, you're ignited in your system. And then you can use this capacity and then you can mirror that. So to some people, it's enough to think about it, to focus, to think about when they do this, and then it ignites. Then the system ignites into this capacity. To some, they need to do something a little bit of what they're doing normally, and then it's accessed. Then you take this capacity and then you use it to observe yourself in the everyday context. And in everyday context, you actually already have multiple layers of like programs that's running at the same time. So when you're doing the chores, the work at home, you think about a lot of things at the same time, aren't you? So a lot of things is going on at the same time. You're using this multiple layers capacity. So just for a while, you use this capacity to focus on what's going on inside of me, what's going on in my body, when I'm in this room, when I'm doing this, when I'm doing this, when I'm talking here, when I'm working here, when I'm interacting with people, when I'm alone. The capacity, you ignite a part of it to observe yourself at all time. Then you will ignite the connection, and it will be much easier than you think. if you haven't in any way trained something, if it could be baking, it could be, knitting, it could be drawing, it could be uh, keeping housekeeping with a lot of children, it could be at work, being aware of a lot of things at the same time. In any context at all, in any space, any place at all, where you have this multiple um, capacity ignited, you can use it here. You can reuse it, and reusage is the new thing. And to reuse capacities in our conscious work with the self, it makes so much sense, especially because we reach the 7D state, because in the 7D state we reach the unified field, and in the unified field we connect with the self, we interconnect into the 7 dimensional consciousness states. That's a oneness field. And in the oneness field, all your capacities mirrors into any aspect so easy. So even though you might have trained or practiced or tried this before, I will really hope to inspire you to try it again, because it has changed. And if you says, oh, maybe it hasn't changed to me. Yes, if you use technologies, if you use a cell phone, if you use a tablet or personal computers, I imagine you would, because I'm online here and this is where we meet. So I'm imagining that you're using it. If you use the technology, your consciousness will already be on its way to the 7th dimensional state, consciousness state, the oneness field. So even if you have tried it before, I will really hope that I inspire you to try some more. Okay, so when you have ignited this observation, so you have availability to yourself at all time, and you can recognize what is my access to myself, how does my sense of my body change, then you begin to sense, where does it bring me? Because sometimes a change just tells you actually that you're hungry, you need some water, you need a break, you need some air. So sometimes when your connection shift or your sense shifts, it's a signal. It's a positive signal that tells you something. So when you begin to catch the signals, the next step is to ask yourself, where does it bring me? What does it tell me? Then the next step is to ask yourself, oh, sorry, the energy is changing. Even though I'm not really channeling now, it's still like a channel teaching. So I just need to see what's going on, because I'm connected with the field. I sense a change. So I just have an inner dialogue and ask, okay, something I need to be aware of. And yes. And it's about just pointing at some of the things that I'm talking about. I already talked about it. I created 2 small series of 1-hour webinars with 3 1-hour webinars in each, where we've been training the entrance into the what I call the 7th dimensional consciousness state and how to stay. So there's a series of webinars, and you can find them on my YouTube channel, The Void of Consciousness, or on my group, Facebook group. And my Facebook group is called See if I can find it here. Events, courses, meditations, and lectures by modern shaman Marianne. So, events, courses, meditations, and lectures by modern shaman Marianne. In this group, you can find it here. You can find these teachings, these webinars where I talk about how to enter, how to use practice for zeroing, and to use this is an important step to work with the fear no fear concept, because the zeroing state gives you direct access to the peace state of consciousness. So this was the group. Yes. And one of the series is called the Leader Power Teachings, Opening of Your Power Within. And there's 3 small webinars with about an hour. And then the other 3 was how to enter the 5th dimension every day and how to stay. And I will try every month to give talks and small teachings. And then now and then I also opened for teachings that you can access with a fee. And I have one such at the 12th of December, the 2nd of February, and the 3rd of March. And that will be Soul Sauna System. It will be about getting access to your soul connection and to work with your integration of the soul connection by looking at your everyday perspectives and reactions. So the energy is stabilizing now because we are in the last part of this webinar. And I would like to ask you, do you have any questions, any sharing? Just bring it in the comment. And also, if you reach this as a replay, please comment, and I'll come back and answer it either in commenting as well or in the next webinar. Okay. So, is there something that you know can ignite you with anger or fear? Often it's like we try to not think about it. We try not to work ourselves up because this negative energy is not good to us. Some people, they like it. Some people like it, but often then they practice it by talking about other things than themselves to bring themselves into this negative vibration. So this, if you either have the way where you bring yourself in this negative vibration when you talk about something, or if you bring yourself into this negative vibration because you get nervous or angry, can you find just one example and then bring it in? And you bring it in by remembering it and focusing and maybe think about it and see if you can ignite a reaction, induce a reaction in your system just by thinking about it. Okay, and I can bring in, I have a confrontation with my son today. Oh, it was bad. So I can bring that and it ignites a lot of things, because actually I had a reaction, and the way I talked to him, the way I reacted, it was actually not okay. And the reason why I know it's not okay was actually because I acknowledge his reaction. And immediately when I recognized his reaction, I knew that I was off. And why did I have to catch it in his reaction? It's because when we go on the boundary of fear, no fear, like work with being at peace most of the time, when you step into the line where you release or diminish your connection, then your reactions with the shadow, they can easily appear. And this is actually why it's especially important to fear the fears, or fear the no fear, sorry, when you work with energies, when you work with consciousness. Because when we work with consciousness and energies, we enhance ourselves in a lot of ways, and then we can enhance our reactions, and we also enhance our availability to like determine by ourselves that it's okay what we're doing. We can explain why it's okay what we're doing, even when it's not okay. I don't know if you have these experiences as well, but I have had a lot of them. And I actually call them lies, because I have a sense of it like it's difficult to catch. It itches, and it ignites reactions, and it can be there without I know it. So they can like hide, and then suddenly when I catch it, oh, it's so disgusting. I can't wait for it to be gone, to have it cleansed. So sometimes I call it lies when I have these reactions. And the more you work with yourself, the harder it is to catch them. So it can actually be really difficult to realize when you're catched or taken by the shadow reactions. Then to watch other people's reaction to you. If you have somebody that's really clear and sincere and true, then their reaction is the best measurement. So, it was not good. I underestimated his values. So when he talked to me about something that annoyed him that I did, I just imagined, or I even just believed that he asked me from another perspective than he did, that it was a bad foundation, but it was actually really good. He was actually really true. He was actually really fine. But my belief in him was too weak, and it was not good. So when I think of this, I have this ignition, but I can sense that it's balanced, because when I think of it, I have the reaction, and I actually talk with him afterwards, and we have a good talk about it, and we landed a good place after some time. So when I think of it, I have the reaction, but if I'm not thinking of it, it's released. So when I have this ability that I can ignite the fear reaction, the unpleasant reactions, if I think about something that was not good, and then it's released again when I'm not thinking about it, then it's a sign. It's a sign that I'm carrying the balance with the fear, no fear. But I always needs to be aware, because I work so much with being in the space of peace, because that's the foundation for all the energy work. So I need to. It's the only foundation that I can use when I'm working with the huge fields and the contracts and the portals. when we work with these, we need to be in peace. So in the energy, I work so much with being in peace that in my private life, sometimes it's joining me. And then when I'm in no fear, then suddenly I'm not aware, and then I'm not, my driving force is about doing my best. Then they suddenly get loose and lazy, and then I'm not my best. And if I'm not aware, then if somebody is reacting with me saying that I'm not my best, then I would actually go into a fight about it. Then I will explain why I'm okay. Why is it okay that I'm like this? Why is it okay that I'm like this? And when I came from the reality as a civil engineer working with science at the university and at a civil engineer company, the boundaries and the way to meet each other where you do your best because you actually carry the balance with the fear. Sometimes not so good because you use the writing on the deadlines, but you always have something to take care of that push you, and you have like important ways to take care of things where other people's relying on you all the time. When I entered into my work with spiritual people, I met this problem a lot of times, that people, they were behaving in a way where they created conflict and where they were hard on each other and heartless. And sometimes they were behaving so bad that I was really shocked. And at the same time, they saw themselves as being guardians of love. And I've been thinking so much about how could this be? How could this be? And then I began to recognize that it was about this release of the fear and suppressing of the fear by using spiritual terms and access and ways to see the world to like leveling the fears out. But then the fears were still in the foundation and ignited a lot of reactions with this really strong energy contents in the fear. And then it just like ignited like here and there out of control, like, and often in a way that was really nasty. And after working with it and really investigating it in a lot of ways, I think that this is a part of it. So this was the reason why I opened with this a little bit strange headline: no fear, but fear no fear. That's because it's important to work with our fear in a way that it's not taking control, that it's not igniting ourselves in ways that we are throwing out of ourselves. But it's also important that it's still there. It's still there because it ignites our driving forces to do our best, to live up to our responsibilities in a lot of ways. And it's important that we keep connection with it, so we use it to keep connection with our reality as well. Oh, I have a sharing. Fear of not living up to my responsibilities. A customer had asked for samples by a certain date, and I had completely forgotten and had a fear reaction when she contacted me. to ask for where her samples were. They were ready. I had just not sent them in time, so I proposed that I deliver them myself so she could still have them in time, and the fear disappeared. How beautiful, isn't this? So your fear ignites your possibility to do your best and to meet this customer's interest. And when it's balanced, then if it costed you too much related to what it will give her that you brought it to her, then you will, if you're not driven by fear, then you have the capacity open to like try different possibilities. So maybe you could ask a customer or him, do you need it? I'm sorry, I forgot. I've been so busy. I'm sorry, I forgot to send it. It's ready here. Do you need it? Then I will bring it to you. Or if it's okay to wait, I will send it immediately today, and then you will have it in 2 days. So if the fear is too hard on you, then you will not have the availability to ask. Does it make sense? So the balance, you can catch it in many ways, but the balance with the fear often shows itself by availability and capacity. A beautiful example. Thank you so much for sharing. And then we ended up with the full content of the webinar. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for the meeting. It was so nice with your sharing and your support with the words as well. Still in the practice here. And we will come up with more free webinars. And yes, this is this is a track. And the next, I also have to remember to say that today is the 2nd of December. From the 7th of December, I will be in southern France in Montségur, and I will I will do some live streams from the area with energy work and openings as well. And energy work will be related to the crystal skulls and the grail. It'll be related to the huge shift in the 21st of December 2022, and it will be a support for us to be prepared for the shift in the best ways. So I will share this in my YouTube channel. I will share it in the Facebook page and in the group as well. So hope to meet you there or everywhere. Thank you so much for this meeting. I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you enjoyed it too. And see you later.